Hi everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. Today I'm going to be doing a book review on Wandering Stars by Tommy Orange. This is Tommy Orange's follow-up to his debut novel, There, which I really loved, a lot of people really adored, and so I have been looking forward to this one since I knew it was coming out. This book is kind of like a pairing almost with There because one of the characters that you meet in that book, Orville Redfeather, is the connecting point to this book. So while you don't necessarily need to have read There in order to jump into this one, you do get introduced to the character, and there's like a big event that happens at the end of There that impacts kind of what is happening in this book, because you're kind of starting off with that character post the events of There. But that's not quite where this book, Wandering Stars, begins. You actually begin back in the 1800s, where you are following one of Orville Redfeather's ancestors. So the story begins with Star in the 1860s, who has been jailed, and he ends up having a son named Charles, who ends up going to kind of like this Christian Indian school, where Charles is brutalized by the same person who jailed his father, or was a jailer for his father. And from there you kind of jump down the generations leading to the present day. It's kind of hard to give a plot summary of this book because there is a lot that happens within the course of this novel. It's not a long novel, but it covers a lot within these pages. It's very sprawling, which, your mileage may vary on whether or not you actually enjoy that aspect of the book. So I will start off by saying that Tommy Orange is like a fantastic writer. Like on an individual sentence level, his writing is fantastic. The imagery that he invokes, the emotions that he evokes within the pages are beautiful and heartbreaking. A lot of this book is about trauma and addiction and generational trauma and things along those lines. And I feel like he does a really great job of capturing these specific moments in time for specific characters that allows you as the reader to understand the wounds that these people are carrying and dealing with and having to live with. It's a very different book from There. There was this book that followed a lot of different characters, but it was all headed towards the same destination. And so there was kind of this driving momentum with There leading to this big explosive ending. Whereas with Wandering Stars, you kind of start in one point and it sprawls out from there, which personally I had a little bit of a hard time with. When I first heard about this book, I thought it was going to be something along the lines of a homegoing type of book where, you follow generations down, and even though you're not necessarily getting full stories from each generation, you kind of see the connecting threads, and it feels like a full story about a family. But this one didn't quite feel like that. The first two parts of this book, you are doing the thing of jumping down generational lines, jumping forward in time. I was enjoying it for the most part, the way those sections are structured. You're basically seeing snapshots in these characters' timelines that are really pivotal in their sort of movement through life that really changed the course or trajectory of their families' lives moving forward. So you're seeing all of these really important parts, but then you get to part 3, and then the structure of the book changes pretty dramatically. The first two sections, you're seeing all of these different snapshots and jumping forward in time. Then you get to part 3 and it all takes place in present day. And there might be a little bit of a flashback sort of feeling set up in this book as a character reflects back on situations that happened to them in the past, but it just feels like a completely separate book in my opinion. And then one of the things that I also had a harder time with is that in the present day storyline, you also start to follow a lot more characters. You follow Orville, obviously. You follow a little bit about his aunt, his mother, his 2 brothers, his friend, and there are all of these different stories that Tommy Orange is trying to tell, and they all deal with trauma and grief and addiction. I feel like it started to feel more fractured, and the story started to feel more fractured as a whole, whereas in the beginning it felt like there was this kind of clear thread that you were following. And I feel like this is mostly a personal thing more than anything else, because people in general really love this book, and I really enjoyed it as well, but I just feel like the theme started to be the driving force behind a lot of things, and I was just feeling like I often feel when there are multiple POV books, where there were just a lot of characters that we were following, and I wasn't quite getting the depth in certain characters compared to others, and I was just not fully understanding the point of following all the characters. Yes, it does provide different perspectives, but I wasn't sure if it was necessarily adding a lot more for me. Like, there's one chapter that follows Orville's one brother, and then he doesn't get any other page time in this book, and so part of me is just like, did we need that chapter? I don't know necessarily. But again, this is a thing that I often talk about when it comes to multiple perspective books, where I'm not always sure if all of the perspectives are needed. So yeah, this is one of those things where, like I mentioned earlier, with the sprawling nature of this book, your mileage may vary. Like, some people really enjoyed it. I think the themes in here are really strong. I think that, again, Tommy Orange is a fantastic writer, but I don't know if this works as cohesively as a novel as I wanted it to. And I'm willing to, again, admit that this is very much more on me than anything else, since this has a very high rating right now on Goodreads. So yeah, overall, I enjoyed this book. I'm definitely going to check out more books from Tommy Orange because, again, I think he's a fantastic writer. I think he's exploring really interesting ideas and stories. And I think that the characters that he creates are really interesting and unique, and like characters that I want to follow for the most part. But this one just felt too vast for me personally. And it's not one that I can give as strong of a recommendation for personally. Like, I feel like I recommended There to a lot of different people when it first came out. But this one has a very different feel that I think, like, things like the pacing of the story and like the sprawling nature of the book might lose some people a little bit more than There, which had like this natural propulsive nature to it. So yeah, those are my quick thoughts on Wandering Stars by Tommy Orange. Let me know down in the comments below if you read this book and what your thoughts were on it. Again, I definitely think that it's a good book, and I feel like if you're on the fence about picking this one up, it's worth getting at least from the library to give it a try, because I think that, again, there's some really beautiful things that are being explored in here, but it wasn't quite a home run of a book that There was for me. So yeah, that's all I have for now, and thanks for watching.